The Battle of the Aegates, fought on March 10, 241 BC, was a naval confrontation between the fleets of Carthage and Rome during the First Punic War. It occurred near the Aegates Islands, off the western coast of Sicily. This decisive battle significantly altered the regional balance of power, paving the way for Rome's expansion and eventual dominance over the Mediterranean. In 264 BC, Carthage and Rome went to war, marking the beginning of the First Punic War. Carthage was an established maritime power in the western Mediterranean, while Rome had recently unified mainland Italy south of the river Arno. The immediate cause of the conflict was the struggle for control over the Sicilian town of Messana, though both sides also aimed to dominate Syracuse, the most powerful city-state in Sicily. During this period, the standard Mediterranean warship was the Instragaram, a 45-meter-long galley with a deck standing 3 meters above the sea. The generally accepted theory for the arrangement of oarsmen on a quinquerem is that there were sets, or files, of 3 oars, one above the other. Each of the 2 upper oars had 2 oarsmen, and the lower oar had 1, totaling 5 oarsmen per file. This configuration was repeated along the side of the galley, with 28 files on each side, resulting in 168 oars in total. The Romans, having little prior naval experience, began constructing a fleet in 260 BC, using a shipwrecked Carthaginian quinquerem as a blueprint. As novice shipbuilders, the Romans produced copies that were heavier, and, consequently, slower and less maneuverable than the Carthaginian vessels. The Romans' invention of the corvus, a device that allowed them to grapple and board enemy vessels more easily, led to Carthaginian defeats in major naval battles at Mylae, 260 BC, Sulci, 257 BC, Ecnomus, 256 BC, and Cape Hermaeum, 255 BC. However, shortly after the last of these battles, most of the Roman fleet was destroyed in a storm, with an estimated loss of 100,000 men. The instability of the Roman ships in heavy weather, possibly due to the corvus, may have contributed to this disaster. Consequently, the Romans ceased using the corvus. They rapidly rebuilt their fleet and, in 250 BC, blockaded the main Carthaginian base in Sicily, Lilybaeum, with 200 warships. In 249 BC, the Carthaginians regained a naval supremacy with victories over the Roman fleet at Drepana and Fintius. These defeats demoralized the Romans, causing them to limit their naval activities to small-scale operations for the next 7 years. The absence of Roman fleets likely prompted Carthage to gradually decommission most of its navy. Goldsworthy suggests that the Carthaginian navy became largely inactive, with few ships remaining in commission, and most of their warships were certainly withdrawn from Sicily. By 248 BC, the war had evolved into a struggle where the Romans aimed to decisively defeat the Carthaginians and, at the very least, secure control of all of Sicily. The Carthaginians adhered to their traditional strategy of waiting for their opponents to exhaust themselves, hoping to regain some or all of their possessions and negotiate a favorable peace treaty. Rome had gained control of most of Sicily, while Carthage retained only 2 well-fortified cities on the island, Lilybaeum and Drepana, both located on the west coast, where they could be supplied and reinforced without Roman interference. When Hamilcar Barca took command of the Carthaginian forces in Sicily in 247 BC, he was provided with only a small army as the Carthaginian fleet was gradually withdrawn. Hostilities between Roman and Carthaginian forces reduced to small-scale land operations, aligning with the Carthaginian strategy. From his base at Eryx, north of Drepana, Hamilcar used combined arms tactics in a Fabian strategy, employing guerrilla warfare to keep the Roman legions pinned down and maintain Carthage's foothold in Sicily. Ultimately, the Romans captured Hannibal and his formidable galley. By 243 BC, after more than 2 decades of warfare, both Carthage and Rome were severely depleted in financial and demographic resources. Recognizing that capturing Drepana and Lilybaeum required extending their blockade to the sea, the Roman Senate decided to commission a new fleet. With state funds depleted, the Senate turned to Rome's wealthiest citizens for loans to finance the construction of 1 ship each. These loans would be repaid from the reparations imposed on Carthage once the war concluded, and the citizens also contributed slaves as oarsmen. The result was a fleet of approximately 200 quinqueremes, constructed, outfitted, and manned at no cost to the government. By this time, the Romans had gained significant expertise in shipbuilding and crafted high-quality quinqueremes based on a proven model. Notably, they abandoned the corvus, which enhanced the ship's speed and maneuverability, but necessitated a shift in Roman tactics, emphasizing superior seamanship rather than reliance on boarding tactics to prevail against the Carthaginians. In 242 BC, the new Roman fleet was finished, and consul Gaius Lutatius Catulus, with assistance from praetor Quintus Valerius Falto, led it to Sicily. Upon arrival, with 200 quinqueremes and 700 transports loaded with supplies and reinforcements, Catulus secured the harbor of Drepana and the anchorages near Lilybaeum without opposition from Carthaginian ships. Catulus and Falto maintained formidable squadrons stationed off each city whenever weather conditions allowed, ensuring no Carthaginian supplies could slip past them. They also assembled a fleet manned by crews operating at peak proficiency. The garrison stationed at Lilybaeum and Drepana, along with Hamilcar's army at Eryx, maintained their positions, but their ability to continue without supplies from Carthage was limited. Carthage initiated preparations by assembling a fleet, outfitting transports, gathering supplies, and training crews and marines to confront the Roman threat. This effort spanned 9 months to prepare 250 warships. Carthage faced urgency as provisions dwindled within their blockaded strongholds. They struggled to recruit the necessary 100,000 men required to fully crew their warships and lacked adequate time for comprehensive training to ensure effective teamwork among the crews. The Carthaginian fleet was commanded by Hanno, distinguished from other Carthaginians, named Hanno by his lineage as the son of Hannibal. He is likely the same general who suffered defeat at the Battle of Agrigentum and possibly faced execution for his earlier failures. The Carthaginian strategy involved assembling their fleet of 250 quinqueremes and numerous transports clandestinely near Hyiera, the westernmost of the Aegates Islands. There, they awaited favorable winds and planned to capitalize on surprise and numerical superiority to cover the 45 kilometers distance to Lilybaeum before the Romans could detect and consolidate their fleet. This mirrored a previous successful Carthaginian maneuver with a smaller fleet some years earlier. Upon reaching Lilybaeum, they intended to unload primarily grain supplies and embark a significant portion of the Carthaginian army as marines aboard their quinqueremes. These vessels would then reconfigure for battle and seek engagement with the Roman fleet. The Carthaginian fleet arrived off Hyiera in early March 241 BC to execute this plan. Roman scouts detected the Carthaginian fleet, prompting Catulus to lift the blockade. He mobilized a full complement of soldiers from the besieging Roman army to serve as marines aboard his 200 quinqueremes. The Roman fleet then sailed to anchor off the island of Aegusa, approximately 16 kilometers from Sicily. The following morning, on the 10th of March, a strong westward wind and current prevailed. Hanno wasted no time and immediately set sail. Catulus assessed the risks, whether to engage with the wind against them or allow Hanno to reach Sicily and potentially break the siege of Lilybaeum, Drepana, and Hamilcar's forces at Eryx. Despite the challenging conditions, the proconsul chose to confront the Carthaginians and ordered his fleet to prepare for battle. To enhance maneuverability in rough seas, Catulus ordered the Roman ships to be stripped of unnecessary equipment, such as masts and sails. Due to injuries sustained in a prior skirmish, Catulus himself was unable to participate in the battle. Therefore, command fell to his second-in-command, Falto, during the engagement. The opposing fleets encountered each other west of the island of Forbantia. Numerous fragments of lead anchors have been recovered near the island of Lebanzo. The Romans organized their ships into a single line and navigated into the wind amid heavy swells towards the Carthaginians. With little alternative, the Carthaginians lowered their sails and entered the engagement. The Roman ships were on par with their opponents, modeled after some of the best Carthaginian designs, and their crews demonstrated superior skill. The Romans sank 50 Carthaginian ships, including 20 with entire crews lost, and captured an additional 70 vessels along with 10,000 men. Nevertheless, the battle was fiercely contested, resulting in the loss of 30 Roman ships sunk and 50 more damaged. The remaining Carthaginian fleet narrowly escaped due to a sudden wind shift, preventing pursuit by the Romans who had left their masts, sails, and rigging ashore. The remnants of the Carthaginian fleet returned to Carthage, where their commander, unsuccessful in the battle, faced crucifixion. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more, please subscribe and like the video. We appreciate it.